Am I the a-hole for giving my daughters 1 week to leave my house after what they did to their half-brother? I have 2 daughters, both over 20. They graduated college and moved back in with me because they couldn't find a job. The house is my late husband Robert's house. For context, their dad and I got divorced 9 years ago. I got remarried to Robert and had my 7-year-old son Tom. The girls didn't have a good relationship with Robert. In fact, they hated him because of what their dad filled their heads with about him. They lived with their dad, by choice, before going off to college. Robert passed away 6 months ago after a long battle with illness. It was just me and my son Tom. The girl's dad got remarried last year, and the woman is basically a witch. That's why the girls stopped visiting there. They lived in a rental apartment during college, and their dad used to pay the rent, but he stopped after his wife fought with them. The girls couldn't get a job to pay for rent and asked if they could move in with me and Tom for a while. I, of course, said yes, although I knew how they felt about Tom. They moved in, and they were nice to Tom but also distant. 2 days ago, I had an unexpected call and needed to leave the house. Tom was in bed all day because he was sick, and I asked the girls to look after him for 2 hours until I got back. I left quickly. Then an hour later, I got a text from Tom asking me to come home because he threw up again in his room. He said he called for his sisters to help, but no one responded. I immediately tried to call them, but both lines were busy. I did my best to come home early, thinking the girls weren't at home, but it turned out they were. One was downstairs the entire time. The other said she was using kitchen appliances, which is why she couldn't hear Tom. I was going to believe them until Tom said he tried to text them, but they didn't respond. I checked their phones after they tried to deny it, and he was right. His message was read, but there was no response. I blew up at them both and called them pathetic. They argued that I was making them act like they are the parent and placing responsibility on them. I knew this wasn't about that. They hated Robert, fine. That might be a little understandable. But Tom is a kid, and he has no part in all of this to be treated like that. I knew they neglected him on purpose, so I told them they have 1 week to move out, and they started arguing and even crying, saying I'm being too harsh on them and acting worse than their dad's new wife. I said this wasn't up for discussion, and now both of them are giving me the silent treatment, basically trying to make me feel guilty about the whole thing. Maybe I made the wrong decision, but seeing how they neglected their brother merely out of resentment and hate makes me feel upset and quite concerned about having them around him. Now for the top comments. If your daughters resent your late husband, fine, he's gone. But taking it out on his innocent child crosses a serious line. What's to stop them from ignoring or belittling him again when you're not around? You're setting a boundary and protecting your son's well-being. That's your job as a mother. I'd like to add a tangential point to your comment. They argued that I was making them act like they are the parent and placing responsibility on them. First of all, helping to take care of a sick family member is part of being a family member and sharing a home with them. Secondly, just like with the word narcissist, a bunch of people have read about parentification on the internet and badly misunderstood what it actually means and the situations it applies to. Parentification is when a child is forced to take on responsibilities that should be the parents', like managing finances, being a source of emotional support, or running the household. It is not asking a couple of 20-somethings to check in on their sick younger brother a few times over the course of a couple of hours when their parent is unavailable. 100% this. First, the girls are in their 20s. The idea that there is any parentification going on is laughable. Your adult daughters were living under your roof, a roof they don't pay a single dime to stay under. You asked them to watch a sick family member for a few hours so you could step out, so you could earn the income that pays the bills for the home they're currently living in rent-free. And they had the nerve to act like you were placing undue responsibility on them and trying to make them act like a parent? No, absolutely not. Maybe their stepmom isn't a witch. Maybe your daughters are just entitled young women, and their dad and stepmom got fed up. And now you're seeing it for yourself just how selfish they can actually be. Good on you for kicking them out. Nothing forces entitled people to face the consequences of their actions like being held accountable. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to spend Mother's Day with my ex and his wife, celebrating her so our kids will? My ex-husband and I share custody of our 17-year-old daughter and 15-year-old son. We divorced 12 years ago and have co-parented with difficulty ever since. My ex is remarried, and there have been tensions between the three of us for most of that time. My ex's wife came in with huge expectations of what she would be to the kids and how involved I would be, and none of it was realistic. 1. She thought I would agree to giving my ex primary custody and that I would be a 1 weekend a month mom. When that didn't happen, she expected everything mom-related to be split equally between us, alternating Mother's Day, taking turns doing Mother's Day events at school or activities, and even changing who was listed as their mom on certain forms. And she genuinely believed that was something I would do, and that it would cause zero problems with schools and doctors. 2. She expected the kids to call her mom as soon as the wedding ring was on her finger, and believed I would encourage, meaning force them to call her that. This was a long-standing expectation that was never met, not once. 3. She expected to have the same legal authority that my ex and I have. She believed she could make certain decisions for the kids without my ex's or my input, such as where they went to school, what doctors they saw, what summer camps they'd attend, and for how long. She also expected to choose a religion for them. 4. She wanted to change their last name to a hyphenated version that included hers, mine, and my ex's. She fully expected this to happen. There was more than a year of her throwing a tantrum because I shut the idea down. My ex's wife comes from money and is used to getting her own way. So not having her expectations met made her increasingly bitter toward me. She alienated my kids by being too pushy, controlling, and trying to change their lives to fit what she believed they should be. Case in point, she tried to get them into private school and pressured them to ask me. She wanted my daughter to be in cheer and music classes up to 6 times a week, and wanted my son in football and boxing 6 times a week. My kids weren't interested in those activities, but she brought them along multiple times and tried to force them to participate. She told them that's what boys and girls did. She insulted the parents of my son's best friend and then tried to stop all contact between the two kids. She hated me for refusing to back her up. The kids hated her for all of this. While she was thinking of them as her kids, they were wishing their dad would divorce her. I know they asked him at least twice to do just that. When his wife found out, she blamed me. The kids make a point of spending as little time with her as possible. They don't appreciate her, and that bothers my ex and his wife. He and I have discussed it, but he told me they should appreciate her, and that I was bitter for not making them do so. He said she made their lives better, no matter what the kids think or say. My ex and his wife didn't have a child together until last year, and this upcoming Mother's Day is her first one as a mom. The day has always been a sore subject for her because the kids are with me, and she doesn't have anyone but my ex treating her like a mom. Now that she officially is one, she believed that would mean my kids would be with her on Mother's Day going forward. But they set the record straight, as did I when asked. Now my ex has come up with this insane idea that I should spend the day celebrating his wife and join in their Mother's Day celebration. He said she's worth celebrating. It's her first time having her own child on Mother's Day, and our kids should be there, but won't if I'm not. I shut his idea down hard and told him I would not spend the day with his wife. He tried to turn it into a fight, but I walked away from him and haven't answered his calls since. He sent a few texts telling me I need to reconsider, but I ignored those too, until he sent his sister after me. She told me it was petty of me not to even consider meeting in the middle, and then stated I was being rude about everything. She said I was the reason the kids didn't like their stepmother, and that with a half-sibling now, I needed to figure it out. I walked away from her too, but more texts from my ex followed. The only thing giving me pause is that my ex's family doesn't even like the new wife. So the fact that his sister said what she did is making me question, just a little bit, if I'm the a-hole. Screw her. And who gives a crap about her expectations? Also, how is this in any way your job? I'm still unsure of how it's my job. I suppose because I ruined her precious little expectations. Well, it's not, so stick to your guns. Your kids are of the age now that they are going to formulate their own opinions and ways of interaction with her. If your ex isn't careful, they can very easily decide at age 18 that they don't want anything to do with the woman at all. No advice, just wanted to say, not the a-hole. And thank goodness the kids are almost grown. Could you go to court next year once the youngest is 16, so they don't have to go visit them anymore? Unfortunately for the kids, that doesn't work. They need to go to their dads until they're 18. The judges don't need to weigh the wishes of 15, 16, or 17-year-olds. They can choose to, but it's increasingly rare right now. I had a witch of a stepmother and just wanted to say thank you for protecting your kids from your ex and his new wife. She has no right to Mother's Day, and they both sound seriously delusional. Keep on doing exactly what you're doing, and maybe now that she has her own kid, she'll back off yours a bit. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for taking my niece on a girl's trip because she couldn't go on her father's boys' trip? Pretty much what the title suggests. My brother-in-law decided he wanted to take my nephews out on a camping trip over the Easter holiday, and not my niece because it was a boys' trip, and he wanted to spend time with just his sons. It's a camping trip with tents and fishing and stuff. I don't know. I don't think he has ever spent alone time with my niece, ever. He'll show her how to fix cars, and they have a train collection thing together. Not the boys. They don't like it. And he'll take her to see horses and snakes because she likes them, but never her alone. I think he took her to the movies once and then snuck out halfway through. I don't have kids, so I can't really comment on whether it's right to have boys' trips and girls' trips. But it didn't seem right for him to leave his daughter home for nearly 2 whole weeks while he and his sons were out having fun. Maybe he could have spent a week with them and a week with her, and they'd both get their bonding time. But he hasn't decided to do that for whatever reason. Anyway, my friends and I have been planning our girls' trip for a while now. Like, years. None of us have kids, and most of us are single. So it was really no problem coordinating our annual leave so that we could take our friend's caravan around the countryside, and at some point go to Legoland together. I brought up the idea to my friends, and they all seemed pretty on board with having her along. And so was my sister, obviously. She works over Easter. I think she was just happy that she wouldn't have to look into having a babysitter every day, and that my niece would be able to have fun during the week. I paid for the ticket so that her husband wouldn't cause her any trouble. This didn't really work because he called me and started tearing into me, saying that I was ripping his family apart, and that just because he isn't bringing her along doesn't mean he loves her less because she's a girl. I never implied that. He came up with it on his own. He said it's perfectly fine for a girl to like these things, but sometimes boys just need to spend time with their fathers. And yes, I agree, I guess. So I don't know why he's upset that girls also need to spend time with other women. He said it was unfair that I'm straight up taking her to a theme park, and that it's not the same thing as a camping trip. And now his sons are jealous. I know he's full of it when he says that, though, because when his daughter was interested in joining the Girl Guides or the Scouts, he refused and only let my nephews join. I don't know why he let her tag along with them if he was going to do this. I mean, he's the one who got her interested in all that camping and fishing stuff and enrolled her in football. So I don't know why he's only taking his sons now. I mean, I get why it was a boys-only trip. My nephews are that age. My niece is approaching it. It makes sense they didn't want her along if they're swimming around in menswear and sharing the same tent. I don't have anything against that. But 2 whole weeks with her alone at home? My sister and him got into a pretty bad argument about it, where she basically said that if my nephews could spend time with men, then there was absolutely no reason that her daughter couldn't spend time with women, and that it would be good for her. And that, with her being the youngest and the only girl in the family, she needed bonding time with women more than the boys anyway. After that, she basically repeated everything he said before back to him. My sister won, so when he and my nephews left for their trip, my friends and I picked her up. She liked the trip. We didn't really know anything about fishing or anything like that, but she did, and she really enjoyed trying to teach us. I think she mostly liked the praise and the attention of 5 other women, but there's nothing really wrong with that, and she was extremely well behaved the whole trip. So, quite frankly, we're all glad she came along. The problem is that now that she's gotten back from her trip, She's practically been iced out by her brothers and father. She doesn't seem to really mind. My sister says she's pulling away from video games and football and all the stuff they used to do together, and is now concentrating on other things. We gave her an old DS since she mentioned that her brothers often played on the PS5 without her anyway, because they have the same tastes and only 2 controllers. Then her ignoring them back has gotten them even angrier, especially since she and the youngest brother shared a friend group that she has now basically ditched for a group of other girls. My sister says it seemed at one point like the boys tried to get her to join in a game, but my niece is straight up refusing to play with them at all and told them that football was a boring sport for boring people, and that's restarted the whole thing. But given they weren't exactly letting her join in before either, with football or the PS5, even before the trip, she says there's not much of a difference, except that my niece doesn't tag along watching them play anymore. I don't know. I think I was right in doing this. Her behavior has improved. My sister says my niece has never been this happy before, and I'm glad she was able to spend some time with other women and is now managing to have friendships with girls her age. And I'm glad my sister didn't have to be stuck at home doing all the child rearing while her husband was out having a holiday. I know boys' trips are important and all, but I think girls' trips are too. And given that she didn't really have any female friends her age, prior to this new group, or any female figures other than her mom, I think it was really necessary to bring her along. But I guess taking her to the theme park as well was a step too far, and I guess I'd be annoyed if I had to sleep in a tent while my sister went off to a theme park. Mostly, I feel bad about driving a wedge between her and her brothers, and I guess that it seems like she's let go of all her actual interests in favor of more girly ones, which I really do feel bad about, because I think she's mostly doing it to fit in with the girls in class instead of actually enjoying it. And also about leaving behind my nephews, since they had to go on a basic camping trip while their sister went to an actually cool theme park. But I don't actually think they would have enjoyed going with my girlfriends. And we definitely spoke about really private girl stuff with my niece. They would have been really uncomfortable with that, I think. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. This guy sounds like he is projecting hard. I encourage your poor sister to attempt couples counseling, because he sounds like he is very manipulative. Your poor niece too. What the heck is wrong with a holiday over the same period with her mom and aunt? I'd love to know what his response would be if asked that point blank. His main problem is that we took her to Legoland as well. Their family doesn't really go to theme parks at all, except for really special occasions. They've gone like 2 times in their whole lives, which is why I think her brothers are annoyed and betrayed too. And also, that it seems I've excluded her brothers just to spite him. He wants to exclude his daughter from a 2-week trip, but he's butthurt his daughter got to go to a theme park? He's full of it. He's either butthurt because he's being a misogynistic and trying to poison his boys against her, or he's butthurt because he took them camping and you took your niece to a girls' trip. Whatever his petty reasons are, he's just being a giant a-hat. You didn't drive a wedge between the siblings. Their dad did. Bringing your niece along with you on your holiday was extremely generous, and it was a trip that she will likely never forget. It seems that she returned feeling more valuable and having achieved a greater sense of self, if that makes sense. Hopefully her brothers will eventually stop punishing her, and her father will stop blaming you as well. Not the a-hole.